Board, October 11th, 2023 meeting. It's 5 p.m. And I'm going to start with a roll call of the airport board. I'll just simplify it by calling out members' names. Mr. Boyer here. Mr. Nordstrom here. Mr. Moose. Not present. Is he on by Zoom?
He is not online.
Okay. Mr. Koski here. Mr. Anderson here. Mr. Combreg. I think I'm here. Well, Mr. O'Connell understands online. Welcome.
I'm on Zoom here.
And Ms. Genter. Good evening. So, next, I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Harry, would you mind leading us in the pledge? Thank you. I'm gonna ask fourth agenda item, call for conflicts of interest, if any. Does any member of the board see anything on the agenda that raises a conflict of interest? Hearing of none, I would say there's no conflicts. And move forward to agenda item number 5. That would be changes to the agenda. Does anybody have any proposed changes to the agenda for this evening's meeting? Hearing of none, we'll move on to item 6 on the agenda, which is a consent item. We'll take an affirmative vote unless somebody makes a change. This is to approve minutes of the previous meeting of 9/13/2023, so September 13th. Does anybody have any problems with the minutes or any changes, or are we all good with them? Second. And all in favor, say aye. Aye. I think the ayes have it, and hearing no nays. So the minutes of the previous meeting of September 13th are adopted. Next section is on the agenda is section 7. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over item 3 on the agenda. Forgive me. That's the chairman's opening remarks, and I just had some brief ones that were brought to my attention last meeting that I wasn't speaking clearly enough, and many of us need to speak up, not just me. And then also a reminder from our transcribers over here that we shouldn't speak over each other, and we should try to speak clearly. So I'd ask you to kindly do that. Resuming, did I miss anything, Carrie? No? Okay. Okay. She has to transcribe it, as you know, and that can be a bit of a bear. So next item is item 7, which is staff reports and updates. This is just a discussion item. So this is when we turn to our airport director, Gaston Patterson, and ask him to introduce members of the staff and give a few opening remarks, and also airport contractor, and give us an update on things.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, one of our items on here, budget process for COCC process. I just wanted to mention that either the November meeting or December meeting, staff is going to put together a budget overview presentation, just to show you how we closed out the last year, where we ended up, and what we're looking like in the future for the next year. So we're still in closeout for our previous year, with projects still closing out. So we'll have final numbers so within the next 30 days or so. So we'll be coming to you guys with a budget presentation on that.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Not to throw you off your flow. Is that something that's right now going through the commissioner budget approval process?
The new budget has been approved, and we're still closing out the previous year. So the final numbers of where we ended up last year. So,
Okay, thank you.
Quick update on the AWAS. I'm in current deliberations with the FAA. Pretty much every office of the FAA has it in their lap now, between FSDO, planning, National Weather Service, because ours is an official National Weather Service station. Basically, they're deliberating amongst themselves on, one, are they going to allow the augmentation again, and what could be augmented on there? there has been some new legislation passed that has to do with a cybersecurity policy on federally owned assets. So basically, any of our navigate that are on the field, the VOR, the glide slope, the AWAS, anything that's hooked to what's called the Navy line, which is basically the federal phone line, essentially is a secure line. Anything that's hooked to that can only be manipulated by federal employees with this new legislation. So I'm working with the FAA to get us added to the authorized list, whether that's via background check or however we need to do that to be able to augment with AWAS. So it's another unforeseen hurdle that has just come to light in the last couple of weeks, but they're at least willing to talk to us about how to make it work for this airport because they understand how important that is. So moving forward, it's just at the FAA pace now.
Are other airports that currently have that system with the audio or voice capability, and other ones experiencing this, that kind of thing too, because of this legislation, or is it grandfathered for them?
No, ours is unique in that ours is a federally owned and operated AWAS that is the National Weather Service station. So we are completely hands off with our AWAS. The other airports, like Sandpoint, they own their AWAS and they just go through a permitting process once a year. The FAA comes in and recertifies it. The airport's responsible for all the maintenance, the daily checks, and they are actually allowed to manipulate. My old airport, we own the AWAS, so we can disseminate whatever we wanted to on there essentially. One of the other options that was presented by the FAA was what if we added what's called an ATIS panel. So ATIS is something that you'll get at a controlled airport. It's essentially a voice recording instead of an automated recording. It's one that the tower controllers will have the weather dissemination and any information. The only issue with that is we would then have two different weather frequencies for the airport. You would have the automated one, and then you would have an ATIS frequency, which could get extremely confusing in itself. And if you're not on the right one, you're going to miss half the information or not get certain information. So that's not ideal. I think when we take the step towards having a tower at the airport, that's naturally going to come with that. And so we'll definitely be alarmed at that point. But we're pushing to be able to manipulate the current system that we have. So we just have to let the FAA decide if that is okay at this point and whatever we need to do to make that. So actively working towards it.
You guys have any questions? Okay.
Other than that, the gate access project is moving forward. Staff has been building all of the actual boxes that go on the stanchions at the gates. They're all the keypads and stuff. So everything's pre-wired. They can just take the whole box out and quickly do the swap on the gate itself. So that's in progress as we speak. Hopefully have those guys up soon and then get all the rest of the PIN codes issued out to all the other users. Other than that, we had our large 624 project just wrap up here. Well, as far as the actual asphalt project itself is not complete until next spring when all our lighting comes in back order and we get to the final paint and everything. But the runway is back up and new asphalt and gray markings. So far, it's been pretty well received. Our new connector that we added in between Delta and Lima that goes off of 624 on November. People are enjoying having that there, so they don't have to bypass Delta and go all the way into the other runway to clear to November. So that's pretty well received. Overall, it went very well. The runway, we got a very good product at the end. They were able to pave the runway in 4 25-foot widths rather than narrowing them down to 20-foot widths. So there's limited joints, which joints are always where cracks and where the failure points are. So we had very few on our runway. They did very good job with it. So finished product it's nice. But I also have Corey with any updated project.
The EA scoping, is he going to cover that?
As far as the EA scoping, right now we're pretty much on hold with the EA because there's nothing to really do the EA on it. We're going to acquire the property on the north side. That can be done through CAT-X, the categorical exclusion. So the only other two things we're looking at would be the tower and the commercial terminal. And right now, the tower will come as a natural step through the tower progress. So we're not to the point of needing to do an EA for any sort of a terminal right now, so. The EA in whole, I would say, is on hold until we decide which direction we're gonna go.
And I didn't catch your name. You were gonna give a, oh,
Me.
right, okay.
Corey.
Sorry, I didn't catch it. Was pointing to you. I'm like,
It'll be short.
Corey
evening.
Sigford with our, and I will just go through like I have been over the past couple of meetings, the things that have changed, but there have been significant changes over the past, since the last time you guys met, because we've been lots of construction. So the electrical improvement project that's been ongoing since last fall, we finally received the generator at the end of September, so that project should be closed out here in the next, I would say, late October. They'll get the generator hooked up to gas and then get the final basically check off on that project. Snow removal equipment building, the design portion of that building, I believe we have got that project closed out within the FAA and the final drawdown probably today, correct? The snow removal equipment building construction portion, over the past month, our contractor TML Construction has installed the insulation, the underfloor plumbing, the slab reinforcement, and a lot of the exterior site grading. Avista extended the gas to the building and the power to the power transformer site. And then over the next month, they're going to complete the slab on the interior of the building. They did the will do the asphalt, complete the restroom inside of there, interior lighting, heat, and I think they would plan to be completed by mid-November. Our actual scheduled completion date, according to our contract, is December 2nd, but it sounds like they're way on schedule or ahead of schedule at this point. They're looking to get out of there soon so they can get on to the next step. The runway 624 rehab project. So Coeur d'Alene and Co Asphalt closed the runway on September 7th. And over the course of the past month, we did the complete mill of that runway. Taxiway B3 construction, new runway light cable, not the lights yet. Those are on back order until Christmas apparently, but I think we'll probably do a runway closure when they do the restriping, the final application of striping in the spring. It has to be a certain temperature in order to stripe. So once the temperatures come up, they'll do the final application of striping this spring, and then they regraded some of the safety areas along the edges of the runway that were out of compliance, brought them back up to standard. So over the next month, we are expecting another runway closure at the end of October. Right now, I think it's tentatively scheduled for the 26th. It's an 8-day closure for grooving of the pavement. And then, as I said before, in the spring, the final marking will happen and the new runway light fixtures and then the reels also will be delivered then. The taxiway N pavement maintenance project. So the North Taxiway, we ended up doing a seal coat on it and then remarking that pavement out there. And then a little bit of crack sealing. There were a couple delays on that seal coat project. It took a little bit longer. The delays were due to high winds and rain preventing the remarking after the pavement was seal coated. And I apologize to Stancraft about that. Not much we can do. And then for upcoming on that taxiway end project, we have to do the final application of markings there as well. And we are planning for that in spring 2024 as well, when the runway is closed. And the painters come to do the runway. They do, it's the same, it's a sub for the runway, but it's the prime for RPI is the prime for the taxiway end project. So it'll be all fresh in the spring. And then Taxiway C is the ongoing design project that we've been working on. We had a 30% design review with the airport and the FAA on September 15th. And we're just working towards 60% design, over the next, and it's scheduled for submittal in mid-November. Let's see here. And then skipping down the environmental question you had, we have a scope and fee out to the airport for doing that categorical exclusion and an environmental due diligence audit. I think the county had it on the schedule to be signed. I was thinking it was that one you said was soon? Anyway, it's for the property acquisition on north of the existing property line between Ramsey and Atlas. And the last thing is the airport's getting a wildlife hazard management training, I think next week. And so we have a scope and fee to do that work to train the staff from our environmental people. That's all I have.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have one question. What is the work that's planned for taxiway Delta One?
So there was, there's no work plan, well, we put together a proposal for the, our substrata, geotechnical to go out and do some pours along there to see why when the airport crack sealed last year that they used an entire pallet of crack sealant there. So we're wondering if it's in need of a maintenance project sooner rather than later.
Did you say an entire pallet of crack sealant? Is that it? Okay.
I don't know how much that weighs, but apparently normally it's just a little bit of crack sealant that goes in there, and it sounded like the voids were big enough on there, and it's a newer chunk of pavement. It was, so there must be something down underneath there that's creating that the crack sealant was going to void.
I have a question. So when that caused horizontal or vertical displacement, was there any vertical displacement or did it just open up?
For the most part, we saw it open up.
Okay.
But the amount of material that it took down through the crack was shocking. Like there was definitely a void that it was filling up.
Okay.
So this scope item is basically to go out there and have a geotech for the asphalt and see what's happening down there. And to see then what next to do, like if it needs milled inlaid or what next, so.
Thank you. Can I ask?
Go ahead, Brett.
Is the wildlife hazard training, is this meant to coincide with hunting season? Actually, it's a more serious question. Did we get the report from the FAA?
We have not yet, but we're expecting that any day, any week here. We should be on there.
This is a report on the inspection that they did earlier.
Yes.
Later in the summer.
I do have one more thing to add as part of our 64 project. When taxiway B3 was constructed, obviously there's all new signage and lighting that goes in there. The lighting, the taxiway lights that were slated to go in there were on back order as well. We were able to, through Phil, secure lights through Pullman. They actually gave us, they just did a taxiway lighting upgrade project down south. And I think we picked up like 30 fixtures from them, but they gave us full bases, transformers, everything, because we wouldn't have been able to open that new theater without that. So that was huge from them. A big thank you to get us back online and keep us on schedule. So
Thanks, Phil.
yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, is that the end of the updates on item 7? So before I move to item 8, which is the Coeur d'Alene Airport Association update, let me just recognize that we have students from Coeur d'Alene High School here, observing kind of government. And welcome. Glad to have you here, and I hope this is a meaningful experience. And I will mention, the airport board in terms of its function, this is a citizen board advisory. We only make recommendations to those in the county who have authority to make decisions, and that's the 3 county commissioners who comprise the Board of County Commissioners. So we serve as an advisory board and this is, there is a kind of parallels in the county for things like parks, recreation, water district, I think, things like that, that advise, not water district, waterways. These are advisory boards appointed by the commissioners, and they are citizens who are sitting on these boards, just like us, not paid. And they are the direct connection to the community. So these meetings, information flows through these community boards that are citizens sitting on it unpaid. And the recommendations of these boards go to the commissioners for deliberation and potentially action. And that's kind of how the process works in our county democracy here. So that's just kind of a 101 to try and give you the bigger picture of how things work. So welcome and thank you for attending. Coeur d'Alene Airport Association update. I don't.
My name is Harry Traviato. I'm president of the Coeur d'Alene Airport Association, and we are kind of a nonprofit. Well, anyway, we are an association that represents the land tenants and the pilots of the Coeur d'Alene area, and also the mechanics that work on the field. And so we have been working on several things. Been talking to Gaston about a bicycle courtesy type thing, and we're gonna try and get one on the west, on the east side, and also on the west side. For pilots come in and don't can't or don't want to rent a car, they can check out a bicycle and then use that to go downtown. Also, the Coeur d'Alene Airport Association has been working on other things like the rules and standards. I'm trying to integrate bring everybody up to date on the rules and standards over at the Coeur d'Alene Airport Association. And we're also working on a scholarship program so we can take young students like you guys back there. And if you need money for flight training or to go on your studies and stuff like that, then we're trying to help you guys out. So that's all I have right now.
Thank you, Mr. Crowell.
I have a question. So on those bicycles, regards ingress, egress to the airport. So if somebody grabs a bicycle and pedals downtown and comes back, how do they get back in?
There'll be
There's gonna be.
we haven't discussed that yet.
Yeah, essentially, we'll do, right now, are both the vehicle gates that access both those ramps have a push to exit to leave. And then most of the time, there's instruction to call the duty phone for the code to get back in. It's then the same code, those instructions will essentially be inside the little buildings that the bikes will be in.
They had down in Lewis, and they had the same deal, and they had they used the frequency, local frequency, or they used some other numbers. They told you on the back of the gate what the number was to get back in. So that's the way they did it down there. I think we probably do it the same way here.
Maybe borrow some ramps from the county fair, get some.
Throw the bike over and climb it.
Jump it. Like clean style.
Okay.
Thank you, Harry. Appreciate it. And then now we're moving to item 9 on the agenda, which is the business portion of the agenda. We have some ongoing stuff. Two meetings back, we appointed some subcommittees for various 2 different subject matters. One is come up with a complaint, dispute, and conflict resolution policy for the airport. And Steve Anderson and Chris Nordstrom have been on that subcommittee and generated a draft for our consideration this evening. And I want to, at the outset, just thank them very much for doing such a great job on it. I thought it was simple, straightforward. It's just the kind of thing that should be in a policy. I have a few remarks, but I'm not going to share them until the end. I want all of you to have a good discussion about it. So I would just turn it to Steve and or Chris to share with us their preliminary thoughts on it, and then open it up to the group to share any comments they may have. So with that,
I can tell you that this was mostly Steve.
Because of his knowledge of the issues and problems and his knowledge of all the people on the airport who could provide input, which he did. And we met with a few of them and it worked out well. So Steve, take it away. I mean, if you wanna.
Well,
introduce it.
what I would prefer, rather than walking down through this, and hopefully it's serving the group that's out here in front of us, it's intended to serve that group. I would like the document, the draft to be made available to them and to get comments and feedback from them. And I know you've shared some comments with me, and I think it's appropriate that you hold off until
Absolutely.
we hear from the rest of them. And also, I mean, to the extent that the board members here have read through the draft, if they've got any comments right now, I think we should consider them, but I don't want to just walk down through what I've put together. I tried to put it in a sequential way and made it broad enough to where it, in my mind at least, would fit most situations where there was a dispute or a problem or a conflict, and lead as you follow through the steps to a resolution. And then I think you may have mentioned that the documentation part of that is lacking, and that I agree needs to be incorporated into this, to where if someone does come to Gaston and say, you know, I don't like the way the lighting is on one of the taxiways or something, that it's documented, the process, the discussion. If hopefully it could end in one discussion, and that would be the most preferred. But if it doesn't, if there's headbutting, or if there's reasons why something can't be done, and one party thinks that the reason is not legitimate, then it can move on to another step and have another voice in the process. But anyway, it's out there. I would suggest that we put it out to the general public. Anyone that wants to go on the airport website could see it as a draft and provide comments either back through us or to Gaston, and we can receive the comments. That's what I'm hoping would happen. And as Chris said, we did talk to several members of the stakeholders on the airport, not everyone obviously, but tried to get their read. And I guess if we'd have talked to everyone, we maybe never would say anything. So anyway, we're trying to move it forward. That's what we're trying to do, is to advance the ball, and appreciate Chris's help on this too.
So I like your plan, your path. For the folks in the audience, the draft policy that Steve is describing was posted on the airport board website for materials for this meeting. And it was posted last, I don't know, Thursday or Friday. So this is kind of a recent vintage, and I think your idea is a very good one to allow people to have the opportunity to go download it if they haven't done so already, take a look through, come back. And so tonight we'll just kind of, we can have discussion, or we can and gather from the board, and during public comment, anybody who has any comment that they want to share. But we'll also keep this open so that we come back to the next meeting and people have more time to read through it, come back and share their thoughts on the draft policy.
I would like to mention that, and this is kudos both to Phil and especially to Gaston, that, this may be an exercise that doesn't see much activity associated. Hopefully that's the way it is. But it seems that the communications we've had from the acting airport director and from Gaston, and there's been a conscious effort to get around to the stakeholders, and I think his office is open. If he hasn't seen your hangar door up, I think he'd make time for you to come in and talk with him. And communications are the key to avoiding conflict in the first place. So anyway, that's the hope that we can do that. But I think thanks is due to both of those guys, and hopefully that continues. It's been a good environment, and also to the staff, Kim and Carrie, are doing the same thing. I know I come in once in a while and griping about something and usually there's an answer to it, why my gate code didn't work and, oh, okay, well, give us a day or two and we'll catch up. So anyway, just a shout out to them, so.
Do you have that on the website now?
It should be, Jonathan, could you? Is it up there on the meetings for the airport website? Meeting
Should
materials?
be with the agenda.
Yeah, it was included in the
In the
packet.
packet.
There's an agenda packet that goes up on the airport website, right? It's not just the agenda, it's the packet.
The agenda.
And it's got meeting materials with it, like the minutes. At least it should be.
It's the county
It's
website.
the county's main
Yeah.
website, Brian, excuse me, it's not the airport website.
Oh.
It's not, okay, I'm sorry.
So it's a Coogan County website.
Right, no,
It is in Coogan County.
Okay.
So just for clarity's sake, because I thought at one point that this like meeting materials got posted to the airport board website, I thought. At least for some of the meetings, like. is
We have a
that-
website.
My understanding is packets have always gone on the main county website.
Okay, okay.
Correct.
I can send a link out to the board. So we made it clear to the public.
Okay,
August 9th and September 13th are there.
but this meeting's not, and you said that's the county or that's the
That's
airport?
on the county.
Okay. So we need to post a packet up there. I thought you guys had kind of made a routine of doing that, so this meeting is kind of the omission, but we will get that up there for you folks. So you have the opportunity to review. If I could just turn, Steve, I think you contemplated some discussion from the group here.
Yeah.
In the context of this meeting,
Yeah.
so let me turn to that and see if anybody has any.
And I know Joan always reads through everything, which I appreciate.
And I have to give you guys an A++ on this. I thought it was pretty well presented and I think it
Yep.
has pretty clear language in here that's easy to understand, deadlines and that kind of thing. So I personally think it's a good job.
I agree.
Yeah, me too. I read it, yeah. Probably not as thorough as Joan, but yeah, I think it, well, it's worked. There's probably a couple of points people want to make to it, but kudos.
I think Brett's got a few tweaks.
So, let me go down to Chris, you were in the drafting of this, so I figured you might not have any additional remarks on it.
I thought it went really well.
Let me go to Brett. Brett, do you have any comments or input?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, I appreciate when you have a subcommittee, and they get together and they work on this, and so it's not meant to be nitpicky at all. I have some wordsmithing things that I can send you outside. I don't think we need to wordsmith it. I mean, there was one item like other members of the panel will serve 6-month appointments, and I just thought that was too short. With the group, just maybe make that longer. I had a couple things that I would take out and maybe clarify, and some organizational, maybe how I would do it differently a little bit, but I also thought there was good information in here on what people needed to do. So I look at you know, if it's a complaint procedure, I try to keep it really simple. Otherwise, you know, people don't read it. And this is, you know, close to that, but I had a couple suggestions that I can share offline.
It's not taken as nitpicking, and that's one of the reasons why I especially appreciate you on the board, Brett, because I know you as well as Joan always read everything. And I think it would be nice, because Brian is an attorney and he had some definite legal type wordsmithing and issues like that, that maybe even the two of you could get together with Brian's input and put out a second draft. I mean, we could probably do that tonight and send something on out to where we're not working from an old draft when you guys see the information. So
That's kind of the process I thought was gonna happen, was that somebody would need to wordsmith it and put in the legalese or
Yeah.
whatever and make sure it sounded appropriate. And that was just gonna happen by me.
So just a thought on that, which is, you know, I'd love for it to work out that way. The one concern I have is if we all start outside of a meeting, sending input to me or sending it to you, it becomes a serial meeting, which is a no-no under the open meeting
Yeah,
law.
yeah.
So eliciting it, the whole point of this is eliciting it in an open meeting, what the remarks are, even some of the nitpicky ones, that's fine, if we can capture them, if we share them, so that, you know, the public has an ear to what's going on. Because I think if we share it amongst ourselves, those types of comments outside of a public meeting, it's definitely gonna violate the public meeting law, open meeting law, so.
So couldn't we submit those comments to Jonathan and then maybe disseminate them to the subcommittees?
I think something like that could work, and, I don't know if there's someone like a scrivener in the county who might, or distributed to the subcommittee somehow. I would look for some additional guidance from you about how this could work. Jonathan, I'm pointing to Jonathan here. Sorry.
Probably be best practice to say all your changes in the open meeting.
Yeah.
That would be
Well,
the best thing. Otherwise, if you did send it to the subcommittee, we'd have to bring it back and say the comments out loud.
Yeah,
well, Brett, I've got a thick skin, so fire away.
and the other thing is, I'll just remind you, not that you're fault of this, but I'll remind just generally. Speak clearly when you're saying them,
Yeah.
because, I think Carrie would appreciate it, and. that kind of thing.
What I was looking at as far as organization was, and I didn't write out, but like the first area, having a clear understanding of what the purpose of this is and what areas qualify for, you know, in the complaint procedure. I took out in the language related to avoid escalation to legal actions where possible. I just wouldn't put that in a direction
Okay.
just to someone on what they're doing.
Okay.
I obviously, as this moves forward, you take out in the second paragraph the word draft policy. Third paragraph, looking at my own notes, airport stakeholders, other complainants with issues arising out of or I took out relating to the use of the Happy Point as a field, and I was gonna rewrite that opening paragraph and just how it sounded. I actually took out the paragraph 4 completely. And it really, it's just extra language about intent, and that's very subjective. And I started to reorganize it a little bit to kind of a numbering system where it was clear that first you go to the airport director and try to resolve any issues. But that you start with a written information. I think you were starting to say that about, you know, what this is about, what the issue is. So it's the same information as it moves forward. Like if it goes to the airport director and the person's still not satisfied, that same information is moving on to, say, this dispute resolution panel. And then if it went on further from there to the county commissioner, it's the same information. So you have the packet of information to start off with, and it's the same information throughout the process. And then just kind of numbering that it's first director, then panel, then possibly commissioners. I mentioned the issue on the 6 months, the 2 months, that's too short. I thought at least a year. I mean, the 6 months goes fairly quickly. Sixth paragraph. Let's see. Oh, instead of approach, and again, this is wordsmithing. Instead of approaching the airport director with the issue, I had first to meet with the airport director. There's some language. The to approach the airport director. It sounds specific. Then a process. I think that I just had some of those could be just a little clearer on that, like number 2, decision. Action, the proposed course of action to de-escalate the situation. I would probably take that out and rewrite that.
Where is that?
Number 2 on, let's see. That'd be the 9th paragraph,
You mean page 2?
page 2,
And number 2 on page 2.
yeah.
And what did you do there?
What was that?
The language, written response outlining a proposed course of action to de-escalate the situation using that. Yeah, I just, again, that gets the wordsmithing, which I hate to do in an open meeting. I just read that and I thought it didn't. Sure didn't sound legalese.
So should it just be a name, a word change there from de-escalate to resolve?
Yeah, that would be fine. Sorry, I did this a while ago, and I'm looking at my notes. I think 4, I had certainly just looked at that process there. Okay, the opportunity to propose a written alternative solution within 30 days. It might be satisfactory to both complainant and airport management. I think I was going back to trying to be simpler in the process and how it outlined with those 3 manager, panel, commissioner, and then being clear on the timing in those. Number 6 on page 3, it says Clinton County Commissioner in charge of KCOA may elect to proceed by recommending further conflict resolution of the plan. And maybe we want it very open, may, shall, or what in that situation, what's the criteria for making the decision? So again, not to make it harder, but when I read that may elect, I'm like, okay, what does that mean?
Hang on, let me just make sure I understand where we made it. What was that, 5 or 4?
6, number 6.
Oh, okay.
On the last page.
May
Down the,
I see it now.
yeah,
Thank you.
page 3.
I see it now.
Do you want this instead of May?
Well, I think it needs more discussion on really, is it going to one county commissioner? Is it actually a legal process there where it's like a quasi judicial hearing on this appeal to the county commissioners? And so it wouldn't be just one. And so I wasn't quite sure on that process,
Well, I think,
what was appropriate.
I think our approach was, since one commissioner typically takes over general operation of a given area of the county. In our case, it's Bruce Matari who has the airport. So he would be the first person to talk to, and if it can be done without a resolution of the board or whatever, then he can recommend some kind of a solution. If it requires the board, then it has to go to the full.
Has to go back.
So I think that's what we were trying to do, is skip having to go to the full board and get that full board involved, the full county commissioner.
You mean the county commissioner board, right?
Board commissioner
Yeah.
involved if it's not necessary, and a single person can, if it doesn't require any change in rule, regulation, or whatever, can make that recommendation and or a suggestion to the person who's complaining, and maybe that'll resolve the issue. I think that was the approach
Okay.
that we were looking for.
And that might be with Jonathan and that group on. Depending on what the complaint is and the appeal, to what legal level it rises to.
Mhm.
If it is a quasi judicial hearing, and is one commissioner authorized to conduct a quasi judicial hearing? I don't know the answer.
Okay, our thought process was not that would be a quasi judicial hearing, but full board would do that.
Okay.
But a single cannot make a decision, a single member cannot make a decision, only can make recommendations and suggestions to try to resolve it. And if that it doesn't work, then the complainer still can go to the full board, and then that would be quasi judicial.
Right, and the reason behind that, Brett, is this whole activity arose out of Commissioner Matari's request to have a process put in place, so it came to him is what my thought was. And so that he was aware of whatever the process was before it got blown up into something that was judicial, so. Anyway, I think that's all of your comments, and
Yeah.
if Terry's able to get those down, then it's appropriate for Brian to give his comments. And if Terry can get them down in some way that we can get them to Jonathan, that, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just comment.
Yeah, Jonathan, please.
The public now, the October 11th document is now on the website, so the public can look at it now.
Okay,
Okay,
great,
Thank
thank you. So, yeah, if Brian could
you good
walk,
with me?
yeah,
Chair?
walk through the comments that he had, and I think some of them dovetail
they do.
with Brett's comments.
Yeah, Brett, I thank you for your insights. I think you're on mark with those, and I had a few thoughts that I just summarized. And because I think this was a two-person subcommittee, Steve was kind enough to share the draft with me. If you have more than three, then there's a quorum, but I looked at it and I wrote Steve back something that just said, hey, here's a couple of thoughts I had, but I'm not gonna share them until we get to the meeting with the rest of the board, so here's what my comments are in general and done. Well, while the policy makes clear that this is an alternate non-litigious path available for resolving disputes, that there's no waiver of rights under other authorities if a complainant chooses to use that process. My suggestion was you might want to consider including language to make clear that a complainant that utilizes the process must see it through before pursuing legal remedies, kind of akin to exhausting administrative remedies in the jargon of administrative law, because the last thing you want is someone who takes advantage of basically a non-binding dispute resolution process to jimmy it while they're pursuing a legal remedy. It's kind of like, if you want to do this, it is a non-binding dispute resolution process that if you enter into it, you really need to put aside the hammer and nails and litigation type remedies. You're not bound by the outcome. And you can still go to it, but second
And
comment,
Terry, instead of having to try to, I'm
gonna give her the email.
yeah,
So-
if you can, because you don't even need to write that down.
You don't.
Shorthand.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm gonna give you this email and it'll be part of the public record. So the second comment is just, it could be more helpful to be more clear about the scope of complaints within the purview of this policy. And in particular, whether complaints from the outside community, meaning outside the airport bubble, right? About airport operations and activities are something that also can be addressed through the process laid out in the policy. I see some language in there that it seems like that's possible, but I think it would be better to be expressed, like somebody's got a complaint about, there's new lighting or something, and that's disturbing them, and they want to go to the airport and ask, like, what's going on here? That's an example. I'm not saying it's an exhaustive one. As I read this, I thought it works for both contexts, both on airport as well as people outside.
It was
But I
intended
think,
for that,
I think it would be best to be a little bit more explicit. So
I have a comment before you move on to something else. Can I
Sure.
just comment on that real quickly? Because if
Go ahead.
you open this up to
So-
outside of the airport.
Right.
Then I see a potential problem where every noise complaint is gonna have to go through this process, and that would concern me, because I've been involved in that with other airports, and I know sometimes those noise complaints can be many.
Mhm.
So we have to make sure if we're opening this up to,
Maybe we could exclude noise, like, no, seriously, but
I don't know.
well, I don't know either, but your point's well taken, because Gaston was saying they already have a process for noise complaints. But if we.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so if we can carve that out and say there's a separate process for that that's already, in play. That other outside airport things, like if the city of Hayden has an issue, they can come and they can address it in this manner, or they can do whatever else they want to do, but anyway,
So I think what you have is a very good thought about like unintended consequences of a good thing, right? And the Gaston could have like a full-time job fielding complaints from the outside world. So let's note that, right?
Okay.
Something to deliberate upon. Let me just move my third. I would suggest, and the time when we do this, I think is perhaps we could do it either before the recommendation or this draft policy becomes something we recommend, right? We could seek this out. Or it may be more preferable for the county attorney to like wait to see what it is once we make the recommendation. But I would think that the county attorney needs to weigh in on the participation of alternates in the process for hearing complaints. I wasn't sure myself. I didn't have time to kind of like go do some legal research on it, but it just kind of struck me as alternates technically on here, they're alternates. They have not been seated yet on the board. And I just don't know what to make of that in this
Well,
context.
And my thought was, I would have even expanded it beyond the alternates on this board, that it could have been, the board could have named someone that was a stakeholder on the airport as one of the parties that would hear the complaint. I mean, I don't, if this is a non-litigious part of trying to find resolution, those guys out there have seen a lot of the things that, and some of them have already addressed the concerns. They would be, that would be a valuable resource to use them as well as anyone, including the alternates on this board. So that was my thought.
So I think the timing of when to ask the county attorney that is probably once we formulate the recommendation. Probably be more convenient for us if we knew beforehand, but even with the extension of it too, we could have members of the airport community pick somebody to be on that panel. I'd also want them to weigh in, like, is that cool
Yeah,
to do that or not?
sure,
right?
sure.
Just to be sure. And then my fourth one was, just, you mentioned it, some additional detail in the policy would be helpful as to how records of complaints are to be captured or documented, particularly as the complaints that are resolved at the airport director level without any resort to the hearing panel. And I remember, Commissioner Matari saying, you know, in the world of processes, when you think about complaints, the whole idea is to document it so that if you have things that are apples and apples, you have kind of a precedent there for how you're dealing with it, so that people feel that they're getting equal treatment, right? And so I think a little bit more particulars about, you know, do you want to document this? Because documenting becomes a cumbersome thing and adds to administrative tasks. But I think also, if it's meant for that, truly trying to resolve these in a non-litigious, kind of non-binding way. In terms of you're not bound to it, you can always seek a legal remedy, but you come in, you lay your cards on the table and see if you can work it out. Documenting that is probably a good idea so that people can come back and say, what has happened in the past? And am I being treated, you know, differently than some other guy that came in here with a complaint, so that there's transparency. I guess is the word I'm looking for. So those are my four remarks. So don't apply to any specific language, they're just general.
Well, and I have a question. So when Brett's comments and your comments and Mike's comments go to Jonathan and then bounce back to the subcommittee, is it appropriate then to bring you in and say, can you help us draft this up? Can you help us make sense out of
Well, we
this?
still got one more slot we can fill there,
Yeah,
and so it doesn't open, like open meeting law.
So-
So if you want me to be scrivener,
well,
And do
because
my
that,
best
I
to
think
vet
that's
it.
what we would have to do, because right now we got, you know, bits and pieces and
Absolutely.
they try to make them flow. You know, when they come from more than one person is a challenge. So anyway, that's what I would like to do, and then we can hopefully, if we get any input from the stakeholders between time, we could incorporate them as well, and then send out a second draft. If we've captured everything, then submit it as a proposed policy to the county commissioners.
so I'm happy to be scrivener, and take what comments we've gotten from the board and try to put them into the document, redline it so everybody sees what's been done. But one of the things I have a question about is maybe waiting for the public to weigh in so that I don't have to scrivener twice.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I was hoping that we get some feedback based on folks that are in attendance here tonight and have heard our comments. And then we'll hopefully have a chance to read what's out on the county's website, and so. it's
Good comment. So what time frame do you have in mind in imposing upon the public response?
Well, we have, certainly anybody who feels they could make a comment tonight is welcome to do so. But if you wanna, make it the next meeting where people come to the next meeting, offer the comments and then and just think that it just goes, it would naturally play out to like December, but the way, it's a special meeting or something, but just being simple, people could come to the next meeting, give whatever comments, I could scriven them between then and the December meeting, come with that. And then as a Christmas present to the commissioners, we can, act on it, make a recommendation.
Sounds good to me.
2 questions.
Yeah.
First of all, if the public makes comments, is the only way for them to come to a meeting and make them verbally?
No, I hadn't. That's a very good point. And I'm trying to figure out on the fly here who they send them to, but I think if they send them to would you be okay if they send them to the Coeur d'Alene airport address? I forget what that email address is, or maybe Jonathan.
Kate's here. Yeah, Kate's here. That'd be fine. I was gonna put it on the airport website as well.
Okay. So this would be the public potentially sending you email with comments. That's okay? Okay. And the second question was, can Brett send his comments kind of consolidated into an email and send so that we make sure that we got his capture correct?
I think so.
Because I don't think I didn't get all his.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean,
I think that's a good way forward.
So Brian, I have another question or comment. So if we're gonna make some changes, then we should remove that document. It's on there, there'll be a revision noted, correct? And then, and probably remove it altogether. Is that common? Just get it out of the public.
Whatever you, the board would like me to do, we can do it. We'll leave it up so they can see it now.
Well,
And then we can put the next revision up once we have that completed.
they need to have something to comment on.
Well, exactly. They'll need to see,
Right.
in fact, it would be more efficient to incorporate these proposed changes.
At once.
So that and give ample times to the public so that by the next meeting.
Yeah.
They're able to comment on the changes we just discussed.
Between now and November should be enough time, I think, if anybody wants to make comments.
Okay.
I mean, that's.
so one of the things scrivening wise, not having to do it twice is if you leave it the way it is right now and folks send in comments. I already have these comments. I'll know what their comments mean and I'll just do it as one batch.
Yeah.
Rather than having
That makes sense.
iterations, it really gets people messed up. At least I know in the legal profession, we're very limited people who things like that. But when we see more than one revision, it starts to get really freaky. So I assume the general public has the same kind of feeling. So that's what we'll do. If you guys are all okay with this, we don't need to take any action tonight. I don't think what we're doing is action. It's just I'll take the yeoman's
Yeah,
or in processing the comments received here and from public comment tonight, and any that come to the airport, you could just forward them to me, and I'll find a way to try and put them in, and I'll put comments in the marginalia of the Word document, so it's, I received this comment, and there's this, and I'll address it back. You guys are okay with that?
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see how large this document grows.
If the lawyer's involved, we get paid by the letter.
So remember what Brett said. Brett said shorter is better.
It's a little bit short.
It is, and I liked your comments. I thought that was very good.
So I think we've got this one hammered down, so why don't we?
Okay. So should we move to the next item on the agenda? Is everyone okay with that? We're gonna move to under 9 business. We're gonna move to just a subcommittee status update on review of the Coeur d'Alene Airport rules and standards. And this is not to put anybody on the spot. I know Frank's participating by Zoom and whatnot. It's just merely just a status. We all knew that this was gonna take a while. And Mike, you're on the subcommittee as well. So
Okay, well, we've met twice. And we are roughly almost halfway through the document, but keeping in mind that the first half of this document is largely administrative remedies. And we're just getting into the nuts and bolts. But there are a number of items in there that we feel need to be changed. and to make it easier to understand and I don't know how far I can go into discussing this, but a lot of it goes along with my thought of harmonizing it with the FAA regulations.
Well, I don't think you have to go into great detail. It's just kind of a status. You've met, done some stuff, you've identified some issues, it sounds like, and you guys are gonna continue to work on it and come back to us at a certain point and report back with your recommendations. Yes. Good. Okay, well, anybody have any remarks or?
Well, I have a remark. So Harry, you said the association is also looking at that. And have you been able to coordinate with Mike and? Okay.
We actually invited him to the meeting.
Oh, okay, good.
So that closes out 9A sub B on the agenda. And then that brings us to 9B, which is I'm going to solicit board input on agenda items for the next meeting. And just open that up for discussion. Do people have suggestions about what we should be putting on the agenda? I look to you for bringing issues forward. Sometimes it's a little hard to just pick them up. We have some obvious ones, right? But anything besides the obvious ones.
I have one.
Okay.
And, there's a gentleman hiding behind someone that I can't see over there, but this is something that I'd like like consideration by the airport director and the staff is Phelps Field, for instance, has two parallel runways, but they also have a grass strip in between where the tower will allow the option for the big wheel airplanes to land at their own risk. And we have room out here, I think, for especially some of these big tired planes or short takeoff and landing planes that don't need a lot of room, and to consider providing a place where there's an option for a landing maybe between Delta and 220. Just something that's a consideration, because more and more folks, especially in this area, are using backcountry planes, and those big tires get worn out very quickly on pavement. And so it's something that I'd like consideration for. And Phil looks like he's got a comment. So
We did. We're not supposed to discuss it. You're just supposed to put it on the agenda next time.
Yeah, I guess so.
okay, that's fine.
Save that for a public comment.
Yeah, you're gonna have to show up next month too, Phil.
We drew the lucky card.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, thank you, Steve, for sharing that. Anybody else have any suggested items? Tim, you're looking at me and I'm wondering if you get something special.
No, I don't.
Okay,
I
want to make sure I was soliciting. Okay, so that closes out agenda item 9B. The next is agenda item 10, which is public comment. So I invite public comment, and if any of the members of our student community from the high school would like to come up and share a comment about the airport, why you may have chosen this meeting versus some other citizen board meeting, we'd love to hear it and encourage your participation. So open that up. Just all I'd ask is that you do come up and just make your name known. So Carrie, hi, sir. Good evening.
Stand here. Am I plenty loud?
I think so.
Okay.
If you like,
All
we'll give you the floor too.
Brian Foster, I fly. All I want to say is, I don't know what's going on. You guys are livelier this meeting than any meeting so far this year. What changed?
The airport director.
Oh. Brian did a good thing.
I had a cup of coffee, so that could be it. Bill.
Well, when I'm here, I'm not the public, I am still staff.
Okay.
But I have some information for you that we did do a study with the FAA on the grass strip, and I'll give that information later, because I have something else. I would like to thank a member of the board who's leaving us soon. would like to thank Brett Boyer for, almost 9 years of service on this board. Wow. I appreciate your input, and I appreciate all the help that you brought to the airport as city manager and as a member of the airport board.
You're here.
Well, Phil, you stole my thunder, but I think it was far more meaningful because you've been here all those years and I'm a relative newcomer. So thank you very much. And I want to extend thanks as well. I've only known you a short period of time, been able to work with you, but it's been a pleasure. I wish you smooth sailing from a sailor to, might not be the right metaphor, but smooth sailing and clear skies wherever you land.
Thank
So,
you. I really enjoyed being on this board. And, I've enjoyed working with everybody that's, been here. Very interesting, be on the airport board. So anyways, thanks. Appreciate Aiden for giving me the opportunity, to do that. Yeah, I'll miss this group.
We'll miss you. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? From anyone?
Did you mention, next meeting? The 14th.
The next meeting date, is that what you mean? It's the second Wednesday of each month, right? But yeah. Okay, I usually don't do that, but that's a good idea. I'm gonna start doing that in the future. So November 15th. It's our next meeting, I believe. Thank you, Harry.
Hey,
I have one public comment, which is I share with Gaston already, but a couple other folks that live around me are noticing the same thing, which is there's this light that's sort of new, it seems like, and it's green and white, and it goes around.
Yeah.
And I'm a sailor, so we usually think of those things like, range lights that help us navigate toward shore safely. But at the airport, it has a different function, same function, but different regimen. So anyhow, it is flashing in my room at night. And
You're not allowed to say this, Brian.
I'm public comment, but it's I kind of getting that feeling like I'm back in New York with the flashing neon Bordello sign or something. And I just kind of wondered, what is this? I don't understand it, but if you're able to speak to it now or later, that'd be great. Because people are starting to come to me because the neighborhood knows, and they're like, "What is this?"
It is our new road meeting beacon on the field. It's been installed through our new electrical project, so. Yeah, the original 80s one, old metal halide, that was removed, that was on top of the old county hangar on the owned by CDA Aviation. It is just that, it's the here's the airport, it's to navigate to the airport, it's the one light that stays on all night long, all the other lights are out of control. There is a certain setting on it, it's supposed to be dim towards the ground and direct upwards only by a slight degree. Since you and I have talked, we do going out to make sure that it is set at the right setting. 1 degree of adjustment on this side could be half a mile out towards Haiti, essentially. So we have heard of a couple other complaints of it that are, lower stuff. So we want to pull it down, make sure that it is set at the right setting since it was installed. I believe there's a certain range that they can be set at, and be more than like 4 to 6 degrees on those. So if it's at 4 degrees and we brought it up to 6, it would be shooting over the top of the hills, like you don't see it, the intensity of it essentially. So we're gonna do a little investigating, make sure it's set properly. It is required to be on the airport. That is community standard of light. It is FAA approved. There's not really different versions of it that you can get. Those are the new rotating beacons. They're all brand specific, but they're all function exactly the same.
So you chose the location. Why did you move it from this side of the field to that side of the field?
Honestly, I don't know why it originally moved. It was due to the hangar. It's eventually that one was fixed. So it was just a future location that was in the master plan approved by the FAA. Met all the Part 77 services for instructions and everything. So, like I said, we will be investigating it, making sure that it is. It is right.
Well, appreciate it. Sorry to kind of lay it on you again here in public, but at the same time, some of my neighbors are saying they're noticing And, at the risk of them coming down and being impolite, I just want to bring it up and, I'll impart the information to them and say that it's a matter that's being worked on.
So you do know that there's a Lowe's down here and they have shades? Window shades?
That's what my wife said when I was laying in bed at 3 a.m. staring at the wall, going, what is that? And so, yeah, I said, you know, you could close the curtains. So,
This might be a test or you.
Complaint. I was thinking. Yeah. I can see why you were going that direction now.
So, so, that was, you know, any other public comment? I didn't even know how I got that time, but, I appreciate.
Hey, Brian, this is Frank.
Um.
Can anybody
any other
hear? me?
public comment? If
Can
not,
anyone hear
I
me?
would move, for adjournment. That's item 11. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Say
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, I think the ayes have it. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Hey, you know, I drive that. I think you can order a lot of that.
Okay.